when police, as the country's security lead agency, failed to contain the deteriorating security situation, President Museveni shook up the top police leadership in March this year. Nearly 8 months later, security of persons and property is sliding deeper south. New Vision TV summarizes the situation. When Assistant Inspector General of Police Andrew Felix Kaweesi was murdered in broad daylight on March 17, 2017, President Yoweri Museveni disclosed that the police had been infiltrated by criminals to the extent that the public was scared of reporting crimes to the police as they feared being victimized by the criminals who were influential in the force. He thus directed the then IGP Kale Kaihura to clean up the force. But crimes of impunity just increased, including the multiple murders of dozens of young ladies around Kampala. This forced the president to take up the investigations himself. But violent crimes increased, and panga-wielding killers started warning victims in advance and proceeding to do the killing unhindered. On New Year's Day 2018, they slaughtered several people in Bukomansimbi, and Museveni again became case officer as police ineptly looked on. The criminal gangs continued boasting boldly to the bizarre extent of holding press conferences to explain how they work with fellow criminals in police ranks, as the commanders of Chifesi gang did. The other gangs aligned with the police, called Border 2010, also continued robbing and killing. They killed an accountant of Case Clinic after robbing him, burnt his body, and were not even rushing to dispose of his car, got arrested by other security agencies. The other security agencies, namely Internal Security Organization and Chieftaincy of Military Intelligence, continued arresting and court-martialing criminals that police would not touch, and also started arresting senior police officers suspected of killing, abduction and forceful repatriation of Rwandese refugees, plus kidnap and robbing foreign investors. In March, fed up with the situation, Museveni sacked Kaihura and appointed his deputy Okoth Martin Ochola as IGP and Brigadier Sabit Muzeyi as deputy IGP. The public sighed with relief, expecting the situation to change. Kaihura was subsequently arrested and charged in the court-martial for failing to protect war materials and abetting the kidnap of refugees. But the police disciplinary committee continued trying an officer who had been resisting and whistleblowing on the rogue elements in police. ASP Mohammed Chilumila, who had been suffering victimization under the previous management, continued being treated the same way by the police. He reported death threats against him, appealed for some security and got none. Chilumila set up an association of survivors of police torture and was praised by Justice Minister Kahinda Otafire for exposing the rot in the police. But the killers still went ahead and made good their threats. With impunity, they killed Chilumila near his home on September 8th, like Kaweesi, and then Chilumila. The criminals showed that they were still able to terrorize the police. If Amin Zami used to call the police their wives, today's killers are treating the police like stray dogs to be killed off any time. Chilumila's killing came at the height of the Arua controversy, where several MPs and 24 members of the public were beaten and tortured by security agencies after a vehicle in the presidential convoy was reported stormed by a political mob. But rather than letting police conduct the arrests and investigations, the other agencies went into action after the president left Arua, shot dead the driver of Chadondo East MP Robert Chagulanyi at point-blank range as he sat in a car, broke hotel doors and pulled out different people whom they tortured and injured seriously. The incident complicated the perception of the public, who had been looking up to the other security agencies for protection when the police was being perceived as corrupted and still infiltrated. But the Arua incident would have been explained of as a one-off had the security agencies not continued conducting themselves unconventionally thereafter. Using the heavily armed personnel dressed in civilian clothes to brutally arrest people in public while using public passenger vehicles has opened up opportunities for criminals to commit the abductions with the public, thinking it is the security agencies at work. The Thursday, October 18th, brutal arrest of Yusuf Kawoya in Kampala city centre, which was captured on video, led to the rising of other such arrests, like one Sefuka was not being produced anywhere. Kawoya too was released badly injured with 2 ribs broken, but without any charge. Mukono Municipality MP Betty Nambozi, herself a victim of torture by security bodies, took to radio and claimed that the brutalization of people is deliberate and rampant. She claimed that if it was not deliberate, the known perpetrators would have been charged with torture. She named a police officer at the rank of commissioner whom she said ordered her arrest and beating up, leading to the breaking of her backbone. She also said the ambulance driver and another driver of a police patrol vehicle who executed the breaking of her leg in a stage-managed accident were also not charged. Namboze also claims that kidnaps orchestrated by security personnel for ransom are rampant and people have nowhere to report because the kidnaps are conducted by those to whom they would report. She claimed to know a family who begged her not to raise their ordeal and instead they sought property to raise the ransom. Echoing Namboze's claims, former Member of Parliament Hussein Chanja took to television and said, "The brutalization of leaders and the people is deliberate. That is why the perpetrators are only taken to institutional courts rather than public courts." That is how Namboze and Chanjo contend. A police officer who was dismissed from police for indiscipline turned up among the force that raided Parliament during the Constitution Amendment debate, meaning he was in reality never dismissed. As the public was trying to make sense of the bizarre Kawoya affair, a list of high-profile people to be assassinated was circulated in Kampala. Reactions of the listed potential victims were varied. Kampala Lord Mayor Elias Lukwago said he is resigned to the fate of being killed because he does not trust security forces' ability to protect the people. Another listed potential victim, Rashid Lukwago, was so scared he was hospitalized, hit by fear. The public was thrown into further fear with the brutal murder of Archie Rego, an in-law of the CID director Grace Akulo. Thugs attacked his Nigeria house in the dead of the night, killed his dogs, broke into the house, stabbed him repeatedly, only to steal a TV set. As the shock was setting in, presidential media assistant Don Wanyama stirred controversy on social media by condemning those who condemned security operatives for brutally arresting people but not condemning the criminals who killed Rego. Many respondents wondered why the presidential assistant expected public to demand same standards of values and discipline of trained security personnel as unidentified criminals. Police personnel, meanwhile, continued with their confusing actions as officers in Naweru arrested one resident called Sula Luze for hosting Dr. Chizo Besti briefly in his humble home. Luze was eventually released on police bond with the offense listed as holding an unlawful assembly. Government has started recruiting local defense units in Wakiso district, which surround Kampala, to beef up security. These and other measures are expected to restore the security of persons in the country. Whatever else government is doing, it must be done quickly, for whichever lives are lost during the confusing situation cannot be restored.